In this video I'm gonna go through my builds for title update 6 of Division, as few friends asked me about raid ready builds. All of them works nicely for heroic missions as well and all other PvE content. I'm gonna start with showing my recent PvP build for Dark Zone, as it will nicely show biggest differences between PvE and PvP builds. In my case, it's usually only about changing one, sometimes two parts, depends if you want to deal more damage or have higher survivability. Okay, so this is my recent PvP build. I guess most people use it with 511 dev grips, which is Dark Zone exclusive item. The reason I'm not using it, it's cause the role isn't satisfying at all. I would prefer to have some good crit chance by default and roll here assault rifle damage. So instead of using dev grips, I'm using normal clutch, which restores 20% missing health instead of 25 like perfect clutch. Climbing gloves is the only gloves that has offensive mod slots, so you can put more damage here. Or eventually, if you're missing a crit chance on your build, you can put here a mod with extra critical hit chance. As it's a Dark Zone build, my mask it's a 3-piece Douglas and Harding build. Mask is crit chance plus health. For PvE, it would be either crit chance plus damage to elites, high roll, like 50 or something more, or it would be damage to elites plus health. Depends if you want more damage or more survivability. Backpack, weapon damage plus health. Normally for any PvE content or raids, you invest usually in weapon damage. So it would be better if it would be a backpack with, for example, crit chance, some health roll, and then you would switch a weapon damage to something higher, like 10%, depends what you got. It's also a good one because it has an offensive mod slot. Knee pads for PvP, I'm using Cloaked. It's good to disrupt enemies or players' skills when they deplete your armor. For PvE, it would be Composure, but I'll show it with PvE build. For holster, I'm using the Guila guard. It gives extra armor. It's not really like super important in this case, but you need to look for something with higher roll, so you can put, like, for example, crit chance here. As it's a clutch build, it's important to have it almost fully capped or fully capped. My vest is also not the worst roll. It has a weapon damage, crit chance. I put higher health on it, and it has vital and an offensive mod slot. By all, it's like 59.5 crit chance without addition of any crit chance mods in red mod slot. So all crit chance actually goes from 3-piece Douglas and Harding, 7%. It goes from attributes on equipment, like 5 for backpack, 9 for knee pads, 16 for holster, 5.5 for vest, 7 for a mask, and there's another 10 by mods on my gun. It's 18% all weapon damage bonus plus 65% assault rifle damage bonus. 0% damage to elites as it's PvP build. I'm gonna test now its power. Usually when we test like power of builds for raid, we set it here for named. You can also shoot one of those numbers to set where the board should spawn to make it easier. still does like really good damage. If you consider the fact there is no damage to elites on build, it might be harder to play solo in Dark Zone clearing landmarks as enemies hit pretty harder. But in group, running only daisy builds, it works pretty good. So it goes like a little bit over 1 million with this build. Here's my like main raid build. The parts that I changed are only mask, vest, and nippets to compare with the Dark Zone build. The main difference is an addition of damage to elites on mask instead of health. It still has crit chance. It would be better if it would be a punch drunk mask, so it had a concussion extra plus 20% for headshot instead of 15. I'm also using the perfect berserk vest, which is only Dark Zone exclusive. So if you want to find one, you need to either visit Thieves' Den in Dark Zone when it's being sold, or just try to farm Fenris targeted loot Dark Zone or vest. My version has like a headshot damage, weapon damage, and crit chance. And it's 10% instead of 8% for all 20% max armor being depleted. So in the end, if you lose like whole armor, it's like extra 10% more damage to compare with normal berserk. Might have health vital on it. It's still like a clutch build. It has not like around 200k health, but it's still not that bad. If I would put here something, it's just for comparison. If I put here something without vital, it drops to 100. But if this ferocious calm vest would be like perfect berserk plus hard hitting, it would be even more damage. And but in cost of like 25k health. Yeah, so like the biggest difference, as I said, like damage to elites on mask. The other thing is composure on nippets, which gives 10% more total weapon damage while in cover. And ferocious calm, like it could be the same vest as I used for PvP. So it was this one. So the health would be still like super high and it would work nicely with clutch, but then with ferocious calm you have a little bit more damage. Like I'm gonna test now the damage of this build. And it's not counting the burst because you can still like it's only raw damage without counting the berserk, so because you are full armor. There are some buttons here like you can damage yourself and test berserk extra. So it should easily go around 3 million. Yeah, just like here it's hard to test still, because if you're using clutch, it reveals your health. Normally shooting at pieces it goes different way, like you lose armor, you refill armor, you still lose it, so it should be somewhere around like 3 million damage. The other gun you could use could be eventually FAMAS with Allegro, and mine is actually with Breadbasket. It's also pretty good for headshots, but could be FAMAS with Allegro and measured, like a rail splitter, or with strength. For it works nicely with high crit chance. Gonna test the FAMAS now. But preferably I probably stay with rail splitter. It has nice damage. The measured talent also works nicely. And that's the police support. Usually while testing guns you should hit at least 5 or more targets, cause if you do like 1 or 2 it might show some ridiculous numbers sometimes. It starts to be lower or a bit higher with more and more targets. If it stops like changing at all the whole DPS, that's like the whole DPS of your gun around. Okay, here's like the other version. It's based on Yahl and 3-piece Wyvern. Mm, let me go back to my previous one because I didn't show stats of it. So on this one, it was like 56.5 crit chance. I could make it 60% by adding like one more, like changing one of those red mod slots for a mod with crit chance. So like it's 56.5 at the moment. All weapon damage bonus 25%, 65% assault rifle damage, and there goes also 49% damage to elites. It's only from the uh, from the roll on the mask. If you would have this extra hard hitting on a backpack or vest, it would be extra 25% more. And also there is an option like to give some, like you can choose here like the muzzle break for 5% damage to elites. Mine was on critical hit damage. Okay, the next build for raid, I've made a build based on 3-piece Wyvern and 2-piece Yahl gear, which only drops in Dark Zone. It's 100% hazard protection. It's pretty good, like in any case. Uh, it might be very good for like third boss in a raid, which is 2 robo-dogs, which spams some explosives and fire on you, and it bleeds you out. So hazard protection is really highly recommended there. But if you're able to dodge it, it's not really like super important. You can use just like one build. So this one is like 52% damage to elites, plus Yahl mask is the mask with perfectly insulated 50% hazard protection. If you have like extra better roll here, you can have like 100% hazard protection only by mask. I'm using it as well with this Ferocious Calm Fenris vest with perfect berserk. There goes the Yahl holster with crit chance, health, and offensive mod slot. 3-piece Wyvern for critical hit chance. because it's also a clutch build. Wyvern gloves with it doesn't matter. It's like mine I got is with skill power. You don't really need skill power here. If you're lucky to get Wyvern gloves with assault right, like some damage plus critical hit chance, it would be better. Mm, it has only like 1 to 3 mod slots to compare with the other build. It had 6. But you get also like extra 5% weapon damage by 2 piece Yahl gear. So it could count like 4 red muscles, let's say. Wyvern backpacks, there's known backpack with red mod slots. There's either with blue one or a yellow one. I'm using the one with blue one. So even like there's like 19% hazard protection plus 50, it's 69 by all. I'm using here a defensive mod slot with 21% burn resistance, so it's like uh, this build its resistance stop 100% to fire. And like main talents for a backpack, it's in this update, it's pretty much Spark because it gives 15% more weapon damage for damaging enemies with skills or explosive grunts. The reason most people are using Merciless as a sidearm is because its holster talent makes a small explosions while you're using the first gun. So, and those explosives triggers the spark. So you can either trigger spark by using, for example, a striker drone or like a turret, striker assault turret, or eventually seeker mines. But when it's gone, it's on cooldown, and so the merciless is like guaranteed advantage of having spark all the time. It could be in this build I could eventually change destructive to hard hitting as well, but it doesn't matter that much. It also depends what specialization gun you are using. Uh, for example, for a sniper, for sharpshooter, you can use some better mods for duration, skill haste, so drone is back in like 40 50 seconds, so it's pretty fast. And depends what's your role in the in-whole rate. Like for example, me, I'm doing also the over damage bleed phases for first boss, second boss, and third boss. So I need to be like a sharpshooter for whole rate. So when you are a sharpshooter, you don't really need a destructive talent here for explosive damage. It boosts your damage by those explosions from Merciless, but the whole advantage you would get by using the grenade launcher specialization. Uh, it would be good for all the dogs and yeah, war dogs. Mm, I can also explain like tip of the spear. It's one of the support builds for a raid. It was more useful in past, I guess, but I think still people use it. Tip of the spear, it's basically you need 4 parts. Uh, every time you kill an enemy, but we tested it before as well on shooting range and other stuff. Every time when you kill an enemy, it triggers a small pulse that all the that tags all other enemies, and it you gain 20% more damage by killing them to all pulse targets. It doesn't need this spotter mask, but if you eventually, as a party raid, if you eventually run a build with spotter mask, then you get another 20%. So it's like 20% from tip of the spear guy plus another 20% from your spotter mask, and it's for every pulse. Uh, the main uh, the main task of the tip of the spear guy is to be able to make pulls as as often as he can. So, like for me, the cooldown for pulls is 11 seconds at the moment. Duration is 10 seconds. It's like when you start the pulse, it goes on cooldown 3 seconds of its duration. So it's pretty much I have a cooldown, like I have a pulse every 10 seconds. So it's almost every time available. So the way to make this build, you want as much of skill power you need, plus some skill haste, like I have skill haste 14% on backpack, 18 on the mask, 40 on the holster, and there I also have like a skill haste mods on my pulls, but they need some skill power requirement. So we need to make it with all the with all these skill powers on our parts, like that was like a very good roll, but because I have still like a weapon damage, so I can hit hard by with assault rifle. I put the 1000 skill power. I have skill power somewhere here. You need to remember you need 5 yellows for a spotter. Mm, yeah, gloves is Fenris, because as I'm using assault rifle damage, so that's a Fenris part for assault rifle damage. Of course, attribute roll assault rifle damage, devastating. It's not a clutch build because there's no crit chance anywhere, so the best is to put here a devastating. And pretty much vest and backpack are the only parts you can get with new update with talents on. So if you're lucky with a good roll, you could eventually get a vest here with hard hitting. Yeah, but it's mainly the most parts you usually look for is a weapon damage. In first place, in front of crit chance, crit damage, health, and other stuff. Furry Mask, Night Watcher, because a perfect spotter, so you can pulse and give an extra damage for yourself and boost a team. That's actually an Eagle Bearer from a raid. You have like a 1% chance to drop this gun from enemies in raid, I mean bots. And there is a 10% chance to drop it from the crate in very end of the raid, when you complete it. The mechanics of this exotic gun is basically if you do a kill with a headshot, you start to glow red. It's called tenacity, and while glowing red, you deal 50% more damage to enemies. And in the same moment, if they hit you, you kind of don't take any damage. But if you stop glowing red, it starts like to blink. If you stops being red, you might sometimes die because the way it works, it's basically all damage you take but while being red, it's being delayed in time for later. If you manage to kill like if you manage to kill like 3 or 4 enemies, I need to check. Yeah, like if you manage to kill 3 enemies while being red, there is a chance that all damage you took while being red, it will be reduced to 100%, so you will not take any damage. So it's like it's kind of tricky. Like if you face tank the big guy with minigun, you'll probably dead after. So you should keep an eye on that and try to cover. Okay, I'm gonna go to my one other character so I can show, for example, an LMG build I'm using for. I tried it in a raid. It wasn't that bad, I guess, but it's more fun for heroics. Like raid is really hard to go through. You need to know how to play, take covers, and like don't face tank enemies, because even purple guys or red guys deal a lot of damage. Okay, so that's an LMG build I'm using with Pestilence. It's pretty easy for heroics. Pestilence was a really bad gun in past, but they managed to make it nice now. If you hit one enemy 5 times, it puts an outcast buff on him for 10 seconds, and if this enemy dies while being with this buff, he leaves a big yellow cloud which deals 1000 weapon damage for 5 seconds. So basically everyone which are in this cloud, all enemies, will die pretty fast, or it will damage them a lot. In this build I'm using, well, it sounds funny like headshots with LMG, but LMGs are not really that hard to shoot with in Division. So this build is 2-piece Iraldi for 10% more headshot damage. It has one Douglas and Harding part. It's a punch drunk mask with crit chance and damage to elites. It has exotic holster, which has 2 mod slots and 1 yellow slot. It's thing you want to use with LMGs, because the reload of LMG is super long, and the holster. How holster works, it's basically if you switch weapon to pistol like this, it reloads all guns. So you don't need to do something like this and wait 2 hours to be reloaded. You just shoot, switch to pistol, switch back to LMG, and it's reloaded, and it works for all guns. Like see, like all the guns are being reloaded, so it's super handy. I'm using with this build also the Murakami Nippets for more health, composure of course, because you don't really face tank a lot of enemies in heroics or raids. Petrov gloves with devastating for extra 10% LMG damage. the other the other attributes doesn't really matter, but it's nice to have something with crit chance. It's like it's not a crit build, but it's the crit hit still happens, and it's either better, I guess, to have a crit chance here instead of some skill power or health. Backpack, the Iraldi backpack with red mod slot, hard hitting, spark, weapon damage, and health. And Iraldi vest, which was also like pretty nice roll. It has a berserk. Berserk works for shotguns, SMGs, LMGs, and assault rifles. So the less armor you have, the more damage you do. It works nicely also with LMG. It has nice roll, 50k health. I rolled a weapon damage. Here's the stats of this build. Crit chance, as I said, like it's not a crit chance build. It has 75% headshot damage. It has 33.5 all weapon damage plus 54% LMG damage, 76 damage to elites, which goes from mask and a backpack. It works pretty nicely. think I'll change the board. And I'll set it, because there's an option also in new update, you can set it to invulnerable. No, I put it too long. So basically you can shoot one board endlessly till you run out of ammo. So it's better to change, like it's better to test the constant damage of your build. Yeah, so it goes like a little bit over 2 million, which is like, I guess, not. Like, I didn't use a lot of LMG builds, but it works pretty nice in heroics, and it works pretty nice as a support build as well, because you can tag all enemies around with this plague of outcasts, and it's not you who need to kill them. Any of your team can kill them, and they leave the cloud. And of course, like, all the mod slots are for weapon damage plus LMG damage, as you want as much damage as possible. About talents, it's really up to you, but for most berserk builds in raid or heroics, I'm using the defender drone, which works pretty nice with berserk. When you're without armor, you can stay more alive, and even if you're using a clutch build, it boosts it, so you can lose a bit less health or less armor and more face tank enemies. The Reviver Hive is probably what most new people to raid use, but it's really up to, it's really a personal choice. Like, it's good to have it because in raid it's super easy to get down. If you're not gonna use it for yourself, you can help your buddy. And also, like, in the new update, they added some stuff like you can pick it up, so it's not like one-time use and then it's gone.
Entering safe area.
And this is my other character. Yeah, I think I've got Merciless here already, so I don't really need to use Eagle Bearer anymore. It's still a good gun, but in new update they try to balance the game, so they nerfed some guns, they nerfed also Eagle Bearer, they nerfed it in a way that they nerfed its damage, and they nerfed it to raw damage, and they put it into exotic talent. So it's not really like nerfed, but to get this extra advantage of its damage, you need to first kill someone with a headshot, and then you deal this extra 15% more, so 50 by all, while glowing red. But still, like, the way that all the guns got nerfed or got boosted, it feels like the best way to use, like, the more damage from everything is to use Merciless plus Spark and some good assault rifle. It makes more and more damage than Eagle Bearer by itself. It's one of my 4 characters, so it's not like super great optimized, but it's also a character I'm going through raid, and I don't have like a lot of problems to go through raid with this. It's also like 50 damage to elites on a mask, it's 3-piece DNH, crit chance, health, weapon damage. I would prefer to have here a spark. It has vital on it. There is a ferocious calm vest with hard hitting here as well. Nippets with Composure, and Guila Guard Holster with crit chance, and I have also like 6 mod slots. It's for me like at the moment for me it's like the basic, the main build for any like heroic or raid. Yeah, I think that's all for now. I'm not going through my over damage builds because it's like more complex stuff. It's easy to explain builds, but it's more for experienced raid players because you need to know like all raid mechanics to know what to do or how to use all talents on your build to make it work with highest damage. Okay, and thanks for watching, and I hope it helped you in some way.